What happens when a man who has everything, money, power, and success, loses the one thing that truly matters? What happens when the world turns a blind eye to his pain, but one kind soul sees through the mask he wears? This is a story about hidden struggles, unexpected kindness, and the truth that sometimes the richest people are the poorest in spirit. Let's dive in. The rain poured heavily that evening, drumming against the windows of a small, dimly lit diner on the edge of town. The place was quiet, except for the occasional clatter of dishes from the kitchen. Behind the counter stood Clara, a waitress in her late 20s, with warm brown eyes and a smile that could light up even the gloomiest of days. She wiped down the counter, humming softly to herself, when the bell above the door jingled. A man walked in, his shoulders slumped, his expensive coat soaked from the rain. He looked around, his eyes hollow, as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Clara noticed him immediately. There was something about him, something broken, something lost. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice like a gentle breeze. "You look like you've had a long day. Why don't you take a seat? I'll get you something warm to drink." The man nodded silently and slid into a booth by the window. He didn't say a word, just stared out at the rain, his hands trembling slightly. Clara brought him a cup of steaming coffee and placed it gently in front of him. "Here you go," she said. "It's on the house. You look like you need it." The man looked up at her, his eyes filled with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara smiled. "I'm Clara, by the way. If you need anything, just let me know." The man hesitated, then said, "I'm Daniel." Daniel wasn't just any man. He was Daniel Hartwell, a self-made millionaire who had built an empire from the ground up. But tonight, he wasn't the confident, powerful businessman the world knew him to be. Tonight, he was just a man who felt utterly alone. For years, Daniel had buried himself in work, thinking success would fill the void in his heart. But it hadn't. His wealth had only pushed people away. Friends, family, they all saw him as a walking wallet, not a person with feelings. And now, after a bitter argument with his only son, who had accused him of caring more about money than family, Daniel had reached his breaking point. He had driven aimlessly for hours, the rain mirroring the storm inside him. And then he had stumbled upon this little diner, a place that felt like a refuge from the cold, uncaring world. Over the next hour, Clara checked on Daniel occasionally, not pushing him to talk, but always offering a kind word or a warm smile. Finally, as the rain began to ease, Daniel spoke. "Why are you being so nice to me?" he asked, his voice tinged with both curiosity and pain. Clara paused, then sat down across from him. "Because," she said gently, "I've been where you are. Not with money or success, but with that look in your eyes. The one that says you're carrying something too heavy to bear alone." Daniel's eyes widened. He hadn't expected her to see through him so easily. "You don't even know me," he said quietly. "I don't need to," Clara replied. "Sometimes, all it takes is one person to remind you that you're not invisible, that your pain matters." Her words struck a chord deep within him. For the first time in years, Daniel felt seen. As the night wore on, Daniel found himself opening up to Clara. He told her about his struggles, his regrets, and the loneliness that had consumed him. Clara listened without judgment, her compassion a balm to his wounded soul. But then the first twist came. Clara hesitated, then said, "Daniel, I have to tell you something. I recognized you when you walked in. I know who you are." Daniel froze. "You do?" She nodded. "A few years ago, my younger brother was in a bad place. He was struggling with debt, and he applied for a job at one of your companies. He didn't get it, but you personally reached out to him. You paid off his debts and helped him get back on his feet. He never forgot that, and neither did I." Daniel was stunned. He had done many charitable things over the years, but he had never expected them to come back to him like this. "I didn't do it for recognition," he said quietly. "I know," Clara replied, "and that's why I wanted to help you tonight. Because you're not just a millionaire, Daniel. You're a good person, and good people deserve kindness too." The second twist came when Daniel's son, Tyler, walked into the diner. He had been searching for his father all night, worried sick after their argument. When he saw Daniel sitting there, his anger melted into relief. "Dad," Tyler said, his voice trembling, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I just wanted you to see me. To really see me." Daniel stood up, his eyes filling with tears. "I'm the one who's sorry, Tyler. I've been so blind. I thought providing for you was enough, but I see now that it wasn't. You're my son, and I love you. That's what matters." The two embraced, their tears mingling as the weight of years of misunderstanding lifted. Clara watched from a distance, a soft smile on her face. She had done what she could. The rest was up to them. As Daniel and Tyler left the diner, Daniel turned back to Clara. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved me tonight." Clara shook her head. "No, Daniel. You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you're worth saving." And with that, Daniel walked out into the night, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the connections we make and the kindness we show. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to remind us of that truth. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.